This is where the fun begins.
It is settled then. My wealth will fund the rebellion while Garm provides our fleet and Mon Mothma our soldiers.
Are you sure? So be it.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
CAF. Lots of it. For me and for the Ready Room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
I am muted. I hate that since this update with StreamYard has happened, whenever you're done with your video, sometimes you stay unmuted. Holy crap. Yes, I see you, Soul Assassin. I was muted, but welcome to Cap Chat. I'm so excited to be back with you guys. It's been a quick minute, and but we are back. We are here. Just had some family, good family updates and stuff. So spending time with family and all of that has had me a little bit more distracted from the channel, but here we are. So first of all, what is in your mug? What are you enjoying today? So here is one of my merches here. Mistress of Rat Attack, Asajj Ventress. You can get this as a t-shirt. You can get this as a mug, what have you. And it is in my Redbubble. I'm looking to change my merch store to something different, so stay tuned for that. But I like Redbubble because you can also purchase my paintings as prints and stuff, but I also do that myself, so why have both where I can cut prices for you guys if I just individually had my own gallery, online gallery. So stay tuned for all of that. Stay tuned for all of that. So it's been a crazy friggin' few days. My channel's not about politics or anything like that. However, I am all about being able to have free speech. That's why I'm here as a George Lucas era Star Wars channel. Free speech, all of that. Yes, even gun rights, right? And no matter what side of the political spectrum, I guess you can say, you're on. you know, and no one should die for that. And, you know, of course, I'm Native American. My ancestors had gone through a lot of things. And so that's why I advocate for it, because I don't want anything to happen like what happened to my ancestors with anybody here today. So with that being said, you know, everybody's been keeping up to date on the current events. So thank you guys for coming in and hanging out with me despite all that. And also, I did put this overlay up. Let me put it up here again, because Knights of Melvin basically dropped his video that we've been anticipating. So it's dropped just right before we started. So I highly recommend you guys go watch it, but stay here with me and hang out for a little bit. Today we have, we're going to talk about, of course, our book of the week, Lucas Facts. We're going to get into our new Jedi Order talk within the Dark Journey time frame. And then we are going to get into just a little bit of KOTOR remake concept art that was leaked, I guess you could say, or shown, and what's going on with that. And what does a remake really mean when it comes to the, I want to say old. It's not that word old, but to the past pre-Disney lore, whether it's games or what have you. What does remake mean? There's remake and remaster. Should we be concerned about a remake? And I've talked about this before on the channel. And so about what a remake is versus a remaster. So, you know, what does that mean? So we'll get into that a little bit. And then on top of that, Disney Star Wars is setting up someone to replace Luke. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Because I am not. I am not surprised whatsoever. And let me see what's going on in the chat, because I don't have the right screen up. There we go. So let's go ahead and say hello. It's kind of weird seeing myself on stream here. I'm scrolling all the way up, and I did mod you. So hopefully that's showing up now. I didn't see. Force choke the like button, share the stream, and consider becoming a member. Yes, and in fact, because of, you know, all the good stuff happening in my family and just me being occupied with that, we missed this last Sunday. I didn't mean to. I still planned on having it. So this coming Sunday, we will have the book club. We are book 4, I believe, of Young Jedi Knights. So become a channel member. Join us. Kick back. Relax. Let's listen to some classical Star Wars. The second generation of Luke Skywalker's Jedi Order, right? Jedis. Which includes his nieces and nephews, or niece and nephews. And come join with that. I would love to have you in there. We could sit in the chat while we listen, chat about Star Wars in general, what we're listening to. It's fun doing the chat with you guys who join, because we catch things that maybe we didn't catch before, or I'll point out a continuity tie-in so that it hypes you up for something that's coming up in the future, or maybe that something happened in the past. So that is great fun. And then Silver is here. How are you doing? And Star Wars Grand, like and subscribe to the best channel and stream on the platform. Oh, you're so kind. Thank you so much. And CJ, a channel member, love to see you there if it could fit in your schedule. Love to see you there. All right. And of course, cheers to you. And let's see here, Conrado, all the way from the Philippines. And I'm Ilocano, so that's the ethnicity. I am from the Philippines. A lot of people that I know are Tagalog, or speak Tagalog in Tagalog. So yeah, so I don't know that much of Ilocano, but I do know the cuss words. And like grandpa, you know, Lelong. So yeah, let's see here. And sub to Matt Wilkins. Here we go. And there we go. It's showing up now. Good. And then, yes, I know I was on mute. It just bugs the heck out of me ever since the update. After, you know, the intro videos and stuff are done, the mute does not turn back off, or doesn't turn off, so you guys can hear me. OG grandma. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Just staying hydrated with water and watermelon. That sounds like it's a good thing. Watermelon's so good. If you just get the just perfectly ripe one, and it doesn't like seed or seedless. It's just a preference, but it's all good no matter what, right? Let's see here. Congratulations on the new arrival. With a grandma like you, I know they will never become a shill. She is adorable. She is adorable. All right. Of course, Destiny is celebrating the guy who got spaced for celebrating what happened to Corey. Oh boy. Hammer drop. Let's see here. And these people are bitter, and neither Hillary nor Harris became the first female president. That's fine. It's all good. We're not a political channel here. However, this right here, no one should have to die, no matter if you agree with them or not, or whatever, should die for what they have to say. Freedom of speech, what have you. There should be none of that. I can't hype Malvin's video for this, or what? I assume my IP address is on the toxic list. That's right. Darth Bane. Yeah, with that name, of course. Of course. I was able to hype Melvin's video. Good. Hype it. I was thinking about bringing it on here and having us review it, but are going through it because I may not be one of the main ones that was targeted, but I was added in there. Specifically, was written like JIA had written a whole big speech about me when saying, oh, well, she's guilty by association. It's so fucking funny. Oh my God. All right. Hello there, Derek. How are you doing? And let's see here. YouTube been acting sketchy lately. Back your channel up just in case. The thing is, I was trying to send an image to our Star Triggered DM chat for Gatekeepers Alliance, and it wouldn't let me send the picture, the image for a while. I had to close and open and all this other stuff, and finally it did. So something, it could be just an app problem. Guys, when OG told me she was a grandma, now I was like, no way, because we all see the yoga model pics, grandma, huh? Sure, Jan, sure. Hello there, Lucas. How are you doing? And let's see, have you seen what happened to Nepal in Indonesia? I haven't been keeping up on a lot of things lately, but thank you for bringing a little bit curiosity to me. All right, so you guys are all hopping in. We have 29 beautiful people watching. I do stream. I do have the stream on Twitter as well as YouTube. I did have it go to Rumble, but lately I haven't been keeping up with it, so I have to redo the connection to it or link to it or what have you. So I have to set that back up again. But I do have a Rumble. And electronic progression. Hello, how are you doing? All right. So with that being said, it's been a quick minute. We are on Dark Journey. We're not getting into the lore talk just yet. We are on Dark Journey. In fact, when I read a hardcover, I take the cover off so I don't ruin it. So I'm still on Dark Journey, so I'm still reading through it. Of course, I had there's a lot of things I kind of paused in the sense, other than my beating, and so I haven't gotten too far yet into this, but it's a reread. So, but we are in this timeline here. Look at Jaina. Yeah, we are in this timeline here of not reviewing the book, but talking about the events that happened in this time frame. So we'll get into that here pretty soon. Jaina's personal journey, nice. It is I rather enjoyed this journey of hers because it's interesting to think like, how would these siblings respond to such tragedy? Like, what strength and determination do they have? And even when you have the strength and determination, you still falter because you're human. And then when you have special abilities, that makes it even more detrimental, I guess you could say, because when you start faltering, things start turning bad, turning dark, right? And that's why it's called Dark Journey. She's going through her dark journey. And funny thing is, and I'm like I said, I'm not reviewing the book, but I'm going to point out this fact here, is that Kip Duran, the one who basically got, I wouldn't say possessed by Exar Kun, but was influenced and basically was, influenced and manipulated by him, and turned dark and did all the horrible things he did. If a lot of you guys might know his journey in the beginning of his Jedi, becoming a Jedi, and Luke creating his order, right? He's the one that helps pull her out of the dark because he's been there before. So that's very interesting. It's great writing. And this is Elaine Cunningham. So it kind of switches up from our normal loved authors. And I don't know how many of you guys, if you guys like Elaine Cunningham as an author for Star Wars or not. However, I think that she still pulled this off pretty well, and it's pretty well in sync with the other books that came before and what's coming after. So, but again, the story, the whole team under New Jedi Order and Lucasfilm really paid attention to what was needed to have these books happen. Let's see here. Yeah, let's see here. Y'all think OG read the Ron or the New Jedi story to the grandchild first? Smash did like. Let's see here. Jane is a nice character. I like she's having her own novel. Correct. This is her standalone. And I think it's very appropriate because Darth Toby, you guys haven't seen him in a while. I think it's very important because she basically is, without really thinking about it, like, I would love to say that they really planned for Jaina to be the one that the torch is being handed to. But when we look into the New Jedi Order planning, it was really Anakin that they were looking at. And then George is like, no, we don't need to focus Anakin's going on at the same time. And so they made it Jason. And then in the end, it ended up being Jaina, who is the one that the torch is handed down to. Yeah, the cat, that's Toby. We call him Darth Toby. He is my channel mascot, basically. He is crying around here. I don't know what his problem is. So you hear him crying in the background. Meow. Anyways, so that's just what I was thinking about with Kip and then Jaina in general. So it's very, very interesting to think about the development. And yeah, everything gets planned out in a way, but then, your boss might say, like George Lucas, we need to change the focus here. And then as you start going along and developing these stories, they evolve into something that may not have been planned or may not have been foreseen. And I love that evolution of Jaina. And even though it's a tragedy for Jason, I like that evolution for Jason. And in a way, the Vong, with their culture with twins and once they have to fight each other and stuff, in a way, it was a foreshadowing of what was to come. In a way, like I said, that wasn't planned out or whatever. Hi, baby. That wasn't planned out or anything. However, the foreshadowing is uncanny. It is unreal. Unreal. Let's see here. Toby, you want to lay down somewhere, huh? Okay. You're just like getting a tail all up in my business. Okay. All right. Oh, dude. All right. Hold on. Dude. He just like closed my page on where I need to be for when we talk. So I got to bookmark it. There we go. All right. He is raising hell. He is raising hell. All right. So Soul Assassin says the story does seem to split into different segments with Jaina, Ben, and Jag, like they were planning something big. I think in a way after this, and like I said, I would love to dive more into this and do more research. That would be fun. But after New Jedi Order, and what Lucas had changed. How much was planned for Jaina, Jason, Jag, and Ben going forward? Yeah. Please don't force. Oh my God, stop it. You're just being a pain in the butt. Look at you. I fed you guys. All right. Okay. So that is just something that I was thinking about lately. And I just love talking with you guys about this. Filoni created a season 1 of short film called Tales of the Jedi while pissing off the creator's death. Yeah, I know. We've talked about that before. Let's see. Toby, nice to meet you, little pawn, sir. Ha ha ha. I mean, Darth Toby. Don't throw lightning at me, Mr. Kitty. Please don't. Yeah. Yeah, so he came in, raised hell, and took off. It's been a while, and once I get camera on, he comes on. That's crazy. Usually he's just laying in front of me or laying beside me and snoozing, sleeping. All right. Okay. So again, we're not getting into the talk of the new Jedi Order Dark Journey timeline just yet, and we're going to talk about the state of the Republic. I think it's very important when we get into each area of the books as we progress along in the whole timeline that we talk about the Vong, the state of the New Republic, and what is that big event going on in that timeline. And we know that this is her solo book here. No pun intended. She is a solo. And it gets into events that happen in Hapes. So, and it gets callbacks to like the courtship of Princess Leia and other events like that. And speaking of that, the one that loves that book, Star Wars Grand, how are you doing? All right, let's see here. I'm going to turn this off for a little bit here. All right, with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead. Makes sense. Ha ha ha. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into yep. Let's get into our first little bit of segment here, and we're going to get into a Lucas facts. So let's see here. Where is it at? I'm still not used to this new setup. It should be used to it, but I'm not. Where did it go? Where did it go? Let's play this while I'm searching.
It's something that came a little later. When we started building Jedis, we had a lot of Jedis, and we needed more and more Jedis. As we were doing them toward the end, we ended up with a lot of Jedis that looked like people that worked at ILM, with these short little haircuts and looked like they stepped out from behind a computer. And so I was saying we have to get more exotic Jedis, and so we only have so much resources to do these things with, but I do have Twi'leks because we use them quite a bit in other areas in the Senate and as background action. So I have a sort of a wardrobe and a setup of certain kinds of characters. So it was a way of reinventing some of those characters. And I had realized that we had a comic book that has a Twi'lek in it that is a Jedi. There's a whole series actually of her. And I said, well, why don't we put her in this? I mean, she's a comic character, but we'll just fit her in and have her be a background character because that's exotic. That's how the Twi'lek Jedi ended up in the backgrounds of these shots, was to try to use some of the work and effort that the guys in the comic book world had put into things and characters they had created.
That's great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
All right. So Lucas facts here. Now, I love going back and reviewing all the past material like Insider and even the magazines before that. And I'm always looking for something good to share for Lucas facts, right? Well, there's one section where it talks about the evolution of the expanded universe and how it is relevant to the story and authentic. So they made a declaration of it being authentic to the saga, basically part of the canon. Well, this is a portion that is always has been kept out. And I was reviewing it, the whole article part of it. And I was like, this is a very important part of that statement here because of what it says. So creation versus evolution. The creation versus evolution debate, dating back to Darwin, loses heat when applied to the establishment of the particular universe, since both have played a critical role. Scrupulously crafted by George's caring hands, the Star Wars galaxy has evolved 17 years thanks to individuals and entities such as Weston Games, Dark Horse Comics, Bantam Books, Ballantine Books, and of course, LucasArts Entertainment Company. So I think that's very important because George always has his hands in when it comes to crafting the Star Wars galaxy. And this is going back from 1994, because this is Insider 23. So this is going back from 1994. So the galaxy has been evolving for 17 years. So from 17 years, 1977, you can say even 1976, because that's when the novelization went out, right? And then the comic before the movie. But from the date from 1994, when this was published, to 1977, 17 years, George has been having his hands in crafting and evolving the Star Wars galaxy with individuals and entities such as Weston Games, which he has been giving, like in the beginning, has been giving authors copies, like recommending copies of Weston Games and stuff. And with that, he has, some of his employees that are in the publishing area, have been keeping track of continuity. And so it's very important to point out all these little breadcrumbs that has been happening since the beginning. People are like, oh, well, they haven't been keeping track of the EU until after, the Thrawn trilogy. And that's not the case. The EU never existed until then. No, well, the EU in name has not existed until then. And I believe TIM, our United Spacers Alliance, will have an evolution of that when it started, when it began, when it was first called the Expanded Universe. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a great video. But it was still the Expanded Universe unnamed. It was still a continuation of the saga. That's how they worded it before the Expanded Universe came out. The name of the Expanded Universe, the name, it has always existed, but just been called something slightly different or referred to as something different or name-wise. And so, a lot of the books are like the saga continues. And I will give credit where credit's due. I always say like the Thrawn trilogy is overrated. I love it, but yeah, I think it's overrated because there's other books that I think are better and also contributed a lot more into the evolution. However, the Thrawn trilogy is the one that opened up the eyes of Lucasfilm even more on the state of their franchise, what their fans wanted, what their fans needed, what they appreciated. And that's a single timeline, a single historical timeline. And they were there. It just sometimes it just takes a little push to further open up the eyes and realize, oh, this is what we need to do, because fans are sophisticated. And I recommend Matt Wilkins' Defense of Expanded Universe playlist, because he goes through a lot of this, what I'm talking about as well. And a lot of evolution of the Expanded Universe and the evolution of its creation and how it's viewed within Lucasfilm. So I thought this was something that sadly is not being shared with the rest of the information from Insider 23. And I think it's very important because it basically shares that George's caring hands basically crafted the galaxy for 17 plus years. And so this is very, very important. So this is Lucas Facts here because I think it's a very important one to address. His hands has sculpted, crafted, created, helped bring this beautiful, beautiful franchise here for us. And yes, other people has helped, but without his guidance, we wouldn't have what we have here today. Hi, Melissa Lord, I see you. And so people forget, oh, well, George didn't care for it. George didn't like it. He hardly even was involved in it, blah, 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 blah. It wouldn't be the way it is prior to Disney, mind you. I'm not including Disney bullshit without George's hands. Because he basically is the creator. If you want to get all into the mythos of this and the creation story of this, he is basically the god of the galaxy. Basically, he is basically that unknown mystery that created the universe. Right? If you want to get into that philosophy, that mythology, all of that, and just get nerd out about it and all that, that's what he is. And when you get into mythologies, there's other different lower tier of creators or influencers or gods or whatever you want to call them that contribute to the evolution of the world, the galaxy, or what have you. And you can kind of see that with the authors and stuff. So these are the low tier creators that still have to answer to the greater force of the galaxy, right? So yeah, so I'm going there. I'm going more into this philosophy of mythologies and stuff, and going into that aspect. Going through that aspect of mythology. If you want to make a George Lucas mythology, how he is the unseen creator god, then that's something to really expand into and talk about and stuff like that. Because without him, again, like I said, we would not have Star Wars, right? We would not have what is now known as the expanded universe. We wouldn't have Lucas Arts Company that created and crafted these wonderful games that George came in and helped with, right? We wouldn't have Dark Horse Comics with the awesome creators and stuff that always had to go back and refer to George. There's a statement about that. West End Games, who basically created these RPG source books tied to the movies and working with the company on expanding like all areas of it, even down to the vehicle, even down to, excuse me, basic food items, right? Everything seen, read, is because George wanted it. Plain and simple. And if it wasn't canon to the saga, to Star Wars, why would he have put the effort into that? Why? And I will stick to this. I will keep asking that question because we know the answer. And those who are denying the answer will just spin mental gymnastics around it, which is quite entertaining now because they're arguing against the fact that it's canon and always was, always will be to the movies. And nothing will change that. Nothing has changed that. All right, let's see here. Imagine giving authors a fan fiction access to your movie scripts, right? Yeah, I remember when they took Plagueis, whatever, however that guy said that, and the Bane trilogy down. Wow. That site is literally the Audible copies for free. All the high-level production better than YouTube AI vids. Let's see here. All right, I know you guys have something going on, conversation in here. Obscure opinion only to the normies, but anyways, New Jedi Order saga is greater than Thrawn trilogy. Woo! There you go. Before Disney turned Thrawn into blue Elon Musk. And then, hello, Nerd Migos. How are you doing? How are you doing? Oh, sweet. All right. All right. Disney's Thrawn is a parody of his OG self. Okay. Thrawn with pupils. That was kind of weird. Fox is owned by Disney. Sorry, still would be under Disney. Still would be under Disney. The Supreme Maker equals George Lucas. Yes. And Diddley Squat, how are you doing? Now OG's a philosophizer. Yes, I am. Thrawn without pooples. 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 Let's go ahead and just stutter over my words. Pooples. Thrawn with pooples. Thrawn with pooples is great. I'm making fun of myself at your guys at my own expense to make you guys laugh. And the backseater. Hey, how are you doing? Hashtag campfire stories. Campfire stories are like rumors. You don't want to start rumors because then the facts leave, right? The more you tell a rumor or the more you tell a campfire and go from campfire to campfire, less true the story is. The more fictional it becomes. That's not a great analogy. Never was. These guys are fucking idiots who decided Filoni and Whitwer. They are idiots for talking about this campfire analogy. It's just the same as rumors. The further it goes to each campfire, the less true it becomes. Right? And the story, the original, is ruined. It is ruined. All right. You know, standalone versus standalones are still interconnected. Standalones are still in continuity because the novel we are talking about, like in the timeline, is Jaina's standalone story, but it's still part of the new Jedi Order. All right. It's like plain theory saber whispers. Beta shills will get that joke. That is funny. Let's turn this on the side here. There we go. All right, so there you go. The creation versus evolution, just one part of that, of a bit about how the novels and all of that has evolved, and now in Saga, and now it's going to be the EU, blah, 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 blah. This part has always been left out, and I thought it was very important to address here. So let me go ahead and take this off the screen. All right. So let's go ahead and get into book of the week, and then we can start talking new Jedi Order. I didn't really make a what do you call it? A PowerPoint. I was too busy. It's too busy living on the baby and stuff, and hanging out with family. But the images that I needed and want, there's nothing really there for it because I can go. Well, there are some images. And I'll have a PowerPoint for you guys. I'm going to use the old one because it has, let me see here. Might have the maps on there. Hopefully it has the maps on there that I'm thinking about. Let's see here. Lucas says Star Wars is a mythology with a constant timeline of events and not a campfire stories compilation where which person tells their own version of a fact changing and of a fact changing it with each other. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's a name change for Legends. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's get into this next one here. And before then, do I want to play it? Let's see here. Let's play this first.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave 1, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
All right. So if it doesn't appear in our records, it does not exist. I love that little the video I made for that. For the segue for a book of the week. Love it. Always a good hit for the channel. Always fun to watch. You guys always love to see her and Disney not being in the archives, because it does. Disney Star Wars does not exist in George Lucas' era of Star Wars, right? And speaking of, we do have a book from someone that basically is a turncoat, I guess you could say. However, I will give credit where credit is due. I love the Essential Reader's Companion for its continuity facts it has in there, and there are still a lot of mistakes going on in that. But the continuity facts, how you can look through and read all the information, and it also is evidence that this historical timeline of Star Wars pre-Disney was kept pretty well together, like the continuity, all of that. You can buy the look of this book, and by you reading through it, it shares how well they kept continuity, basically. Turncoat 100, yes. So the author, Pablo Hidalgo, the cover artist, which I really didn't look into seeing who the cover artist is Paul Yule. Paul did the X-Wing series novels, so he was the cover. He was the painter, and this was painting. This is oil painting of Yoda, and he did that with the X-Wing series as well. So cover is Paul Yule. Illustrators within the book, Jeffrey Carlisle, Chris Travis, Chris Scoff, Brian Rod. I need my glasses on. Darren Tan and Joe Corney. So if I said that wrong, apologize. And it was published October 2012. So it was published during the time of the buyout. So the buyout was either before as they were signing for the buyout. So this is still made and produced under pre-Disney. So the buyout wasn't really in full effect yet. And I think that the date was the 12th or 13th of October. I just didn't put the date on there. So this was published came out before the buyout. However, there's a few people I am very suspicious to knowing about the buyout. When you look at the wording in this, in the introduction of this book, it lends to me and my suspicions on the wording, like how it was worded about how they knew the buyout, and also maybe intentions of where they wanted to go with the lore. So me, I like to question everything. I like to look things over, look at dates, look at people's histories. And Pablo, basically, the minute that he became a Disney employee under Lucasfilm, it seems like his true intentions were being exposed. But that is just me. So the continuity notes here, there's a lot more. There's a few things that I'm like, I wished I would have written down and bookmarked it. Or, I do write in this. I wish I would have circled some of the errors that I've seen that he put with the continuity, or with some of the continuity notes in there in the book. But I didn't, so I'm gonna have to go through there and redo it. So the list would be longer than what is shown here, obviously. But there are a few things that I've caught on my own, and I wish I would have bookmarked. It would have been here. Incorrectly states that Zelton Corporation supported Isan Isar's coup on Thyfera. Incorrectly states that George Cardass had a copy of the Kamas document and knew the location of the Katana fleet. Incorrectly spells Garden Terrace name as Groudon. Incorrectly states that the fallen Nasi harbored the Stir Kai rather than Abeloth. Incorrectly states that Zavari's character originates from the New Republic, despite never appearing in the text at all. Incorrectly refers to the Tyria Sarkin as a newcomer to Wraith Squadron in Iron Fist, despite being depicted as a member in Wraith Squadron. And then wrong placement of Bandemir in both grid square 0 to 6 or 06 and 07. Wrong placement of Nar Shaddaa in both grid squares M9 and S12. So there are some discrepancies, continuity notes. So, I would say it happens, but when you're supposed to be working alongside continuity creators, like the keepers of continuity, you would think that there would be less, errors going on in this. So there you go. It's bookmarked in my mind. Yeah, but I just don't remember the page or which one it is. There's so many I've caught reading through this and reading through the continuity notes. That's poor book. I remember Stig and I gave OG trouble for all the markers and pins right. Oh yeah, I'll show you. I will show you. But this poor book, it's falling apart. But this book here is the one I don't mind writing and annotating notes and all that in there, because I think it's like this is a source book that is I go back to refer to certain things. Now, do I bookmark everything or write everything? No, I don't. All right, so here we go. Let me take this off the screen. Let me turn my camera back on. Let me change the view on here too. Let's see here. Where is it at? Still not used to this layout. Here we go. Hello. So here it is. Of course, I have a page here, written notes. I have bookmarkers going on here. I have pages that are sliding out because this type of bind is horrible. And it gets a lot of love in a way. I'm always researching, always looking through it. Let me see, where's one that I marked? Let me see, a heavily marked one. There we go. And the pages are falling out. Yeah. So that's what's going on with that, because it is used for research. It is a source. It's a reliable source book in a sense. Reliable, but still not, because there's a lot of things I caught that I'm like, okay, Pablo, you really need to up your game. What were you not paying attention to keeping this continuity and such? You can see OG takes her research very seriously. I do. Yeah, the book is still holding together. I am so surprised. So it's not a hardback, but it's a I forgot what kind of bind this is called. I forgot, but it's slowly falling apart, and I might have to have it go. I might have to have it fixed. I might have to. So let's go ahead and bring this back up. Yes. So this is book of the week. This contains almost all of the novels, and even it refers back to the short stories that are in Insiders. I believe not all of them, though. And it's the whole entire Star Wars timeline. And I think the only books that are not in there, there's a few of them. Like I think Razor's Edge, that's Leia standalone. I think it's called Razor's Edge. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have it in front of me. And then the Kenobi novel's not in there because those novels were the ones that are in production during the buyout. And once they were published, they dictated which ones were going to be marked as quote unquote legends or pre-Disney lore or post-Disney lore. So another post one that was decided was Heir to the Jedi, I believe it's called. And they decided to make that a part of their lore. And that book is a standalone with Luke, basically. And it was shortly after A New Hope, I believe, or something like that. Or I forget, somewhere in the OT timeline. But I think it was after A New Hope, I believe. Anyways, there is, it was a part of a trilogy. I think the trilogy was Leia's solo book, The Razor's Edge, I believe it's called. And then I think it's the Scoundrels book with Han Solo, I believe. And then Luke with the Heir to the Jedi. And so the two latter were put as pre-Disney. And the one with Luke, which they had the author revise, basically, and they made it part of their lore, Disney lore. And then Tarkin was one of them that they decided to have Lucino revise to fit Disney lore. So that's another book that was decided not to be kept pre-Disney. And so that was very interesting. And I'm very interested to exactly what was changed. And was it Lucino that was saying that he didn't like the fact that like all these authors' works were considered useless and non-canon now, and he kind of stepped away from writing for Disney because of that. So yeah, so it might have been because of that book, if that's the one I'm thinking about. That's the one that talked about canon and the change, the buyout and stuff like that. So, but this book right here is a great source. I hear it's hard to find now, and it's not being published that much anymore. And you have to search for it. And then when you find it, it's like, it could be a good penny. So I suggest finding it and get it on your bookshelf. Do your research. If you're well-versed in the EU, you can go back and look at the continuity notes. You'll see some of the discrepancies that are happening in there. Like Pablo, there's some things he got spot on, and there's some things that's like, are you changing the way people want to view this or what? So I question everything. That's me. I just question everything. Let's see here. Lucino did some work for them, but wasn't happy with how they operated, so he won't do it. Yeah, okay, it was him. And I think maybe it was because of Tarkin, because of the Tarkin novel, because they did have him revise it to fit the lore. So, so there we go. So I would love to have an interview with him and, talk about that. Talk about how, like, Tarkin, what changes were made? What did the Disney Lucas story group want him to change? That would be if he would be comfortable talking about that. Yeah, Tarkin and Catalyst. Yeah, and then he wrote Catalyst. That's right. He wrote Catalyst as well. All right. Let's see here. And Soul Assassin says, my one regret is not getting into the books when they were easier to get. Now they're expensive and have the Essentials Legends label. Yes, that's why I tried. And I need to go back and update my list on where you can find them for cheap so that you can add to your library without having the Legends label if you're trying to avoid that. However, I do understand that there's some books like Kenobi novel that you can't help but have that Legends label on there. So there's that. So hey, Keely Chow, how are you doing? What's up? Let me see here. Let's see here. I hardly play these clips here. What can I say? You know what? Let's play this before we change segues.
George Lucas ruined my life. 57 years ago, I did his little Star Wars film. The fact that you made me into a little doll that my first husband could stick pins into, a shampoo bottle where people could twist my head off and pour liquid out of my neck, lather up with Leia, and you'll feel like a princess yourself. And yes, the little Pez dispensers. And though amongst your many possessions you have owned my likeness, lo, all these years, so that every time I look in the mirror, I have to send you a check for a couple of bucks. You had the unmitigated gall to let that chick, the new girl who plays my mother, Queen Amadillo, or whatever her name is, she wears a new hairstyle and outfit practically every time she walks through a door. I mean, I bet she even got to wear a bra. Even though you told me I couldn't because there was no underwear in space. I hope I slept with you to get the job, because if not, who the hell was that guy?
What a gem. What a classic. Oh my God. Just imagine, seeing George out there in the audience as she roasts him. Oh my God. That would have been just priceless right there, right? Priceless. She had such a great sense of humor. Great sense of humor. And that clip, absolutely love and adore, because it just puts a smile on my face. And, and the humor, all of that, amazing. That's totally George's humor. Shout out to Carrie Fisher. All right. So speaking of Carrie Fisher, we're going to get into her fictional character's family life, and that would be Jaina Solo in her Dark Journey. We are going into Dark Journey timeline now, so let's go ahead and get this ball started. So I'm going to play this, and this is homage to our great friend Matt Wilkins as well.
Someone asked me to give the best reason why someone should read the Expanded Universe. After giving it a lot of thought, here's what I have to say. The Expanded Universe respects the reader. In the Expanded Universe, Luke Skywalker's optimism continues where it left off in Return of the Jedi. He's fulfilled hope to the galaxy, just like Obi-Wan said he would, not like the Disney movies where he gave up on the Jedi or even the whole galaxy for that matter. The character you see in those movies is not Luke. Luke isn't a quitter. He's not a pessimist. He's a leader. He's inspirational. And he's always there for his friends in times of need. Another character is Han Solo. He's introduced to us in A New Hope as a loner, a man who cares only for himself and nobody else. But by the end of Return of the Jedi, that all turns around when he finally finds friends he can trust and a true love to spend the rest of his life with. And that's exactly what he does in the Expanded Universe. Han is a devoted husband and father to Leia and their kids. He loves his family above all else. In the new movies, Han turns out to be a selfish deadbeat dad who ran out on his family when things get tough. It's a complete 180 from the character that we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, another thing the EU does is it rewards its readers. Attention to detail when it comes to continuity has never been done at such a level as when it was performed by the Expanded Universe. Avid readers will constantly be rewarded for their diligence as comics, novels, video games, and even children's books share connections throughout the entire series, making it almost a flawless, continuous story. And though it has its minor flaws, it's still the best overall story and continuity out there, period. That's what the EU does. It respects and rewards its readers. And that's the best reason you should give it a try. Long live the Expanded Universe.
Long live the Expanded Universe. Yes. And we are getting into Dark Journey timeline, or more into it, because we did talk about the death of Anakin. And that was basically something that was crazy. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think I have anything here that I can display I didn't change it to the one I was thinking about using. Nope. Okay. All right. That's all good. I'll nerd out for you guys next Thursday and have a PowerPoint up for that. In fact, next week we are going to get into the Yuuzhan Vong and what's going on with them and what's in this timeline. Let's see here. Jedi never give up. Fuck the sequels. Not my saga. Not my Star Wars. Exactly. So, how many of you guys have read New Dark Journey or know of that part of the timeline? And what's going on with Jaina Solo? Again, this is her basically standalone, even though it's her standalone story, but it's still a part of the greater story of the New Jedi Order, the Vong War, what's going on during that time, the invasion and all of that. And we do have continuity callbacks with this novel here, again, to, and I'm surprised it doesn't say anything here, Pablo Hidalgo. But there's continuity callbacks here to the Hapes, Consortium, and the marriage of, Tiniol Joe and Isolder, and what happened during that time, and how Leia denied, not denied, well, she didn't deny him in a negative way, but she basically realized that, she can't sacrifice who she is and her love for the galaxy. Like, that's what she was trying to do. Many people misunderstand courtship of Princess Leia, and they're thinking that she's being forced to marry Isildur or whatever. And her thought process of it, and yes, it was established he's good looking. So yeah, I mean, who wouldn't, like, man or female looking at the opposite sex or someone they're attracted to? Wouldn't be, kind of gaga for someone that's attractive and stuff like that, just for the looks and stuff like that. But anyways, not getting into the superficial stuff, because Leia's not superficial. We know that. But she realized that her worth, and even the galaxy's worth, is not from marriage. The marriage was being proposed as a way of strengthening the New Republic. And, in the end, she still got the Hapes backing. And when she realized that, she was going to follow her true feelings rather than denying them, so feelings aren't sharing for normie, right? Feelings aren't sharing for normie. I see that. But Disney apologists give Skeleton Crew and Andor high ratings and shits on the courtship of Princess Leia fake fans. Yes, I've seen that. I've seen that being done, and how they're saying, oh, well, like, they did the same thing as Mon Mothma was doing for her daughter, Lida, or whatever her name is. And that they did the same thing with Leia. Mon Mothma was trying to sell her off towards the Hapes to marry. No. She was backing it because she felt that if Leia married Royal, that they would have a strong ties with the Hapes. But in the end, Leia proved it doesn't matter. You don't need that type of marriage to get the backing of another system for your government and building of the government in the New Republic and stuff like that. So people just, like, it's this narrow-minded tunnel vision kind of sight, and either they haven't read the story, or again, they're applying these mental gymnastics, if you want to say, to make it seem like, oh, well, Disney did the same thing as what happened in pre-Disney stuff. Let me see here. Was it Mon Mothma's daughter or son who died at Hoth? It was her son who died at Hoth. Yes. Yeah, spoilers. If you guys didn't know, she had a son, and he was killed by Vader. Yep. She lost a son. That woman has been through a lot. And I think, and this is another reason why I say that they destroyed her character in Disney Star Wars, because everything that was written for her, expanded for her, just like Wedge, but however, Wedge was a more popular character than Mon Mothma, so he got more attention in a way. And then because of his military prowess as a pilot and stuff like that, of course, he got more time. Mon Mothma leader, who, you know, sometimes leaders are in the background and stuff like that, but she did get expanded on. And what they did to her in Disney really tears apart who she was under George Lucas and his lore. And mind you, I don't care if characters drink and stuff, but that depiction was weird. But because we have like Wedge and his group having fun drinking and parts of the timeline and stuff like that and what have you. So I'm very careful on what I'm selective on talking about and bringing up, in a sense, because there might be something similar in the pre-Disney stuff. And so you just got to be careful how you call things out and really analyze between the two before you do. Mind you, that was really odd for her. That scene was very odd. That scene wasn't really needed, in a sense, for the story to happen. Anyways, we're not going to talk about Andor and stuff like that. We're gonna get back into the lore here. I don't know, OG. I have a theory that it's all political propaganda to mind wipe the generation of people with Star Wars, but that's a discussion for another time. Oh yeah, what they call it, revisionist history. Yep. If they could do it to the beloved franchises and always change and stuff, especially one that kept a historical timeline, it's easily done then to reality, I guess you could say. And I'm gonna go there as a Native American and knowing and seeing how things are written about my people. Yes, it has been done before, and without people knowing, and it still continues today. We have to be very careful. We have to question everything, be vigilant. And especially with how media is portraying both sides, question both sides, question it all. Question it all. All right, so Mon Mothma, nothing personal, Han. I know you and Leia had a story together in the past, but I hope she accepts Isolder's proposal. That would be great for the New Republic to have the Hape's support. Yep. Let's see here. All right. So I kind of missed not having my slideshow up here and stuff like that, but that's okay. That's okay. So the state of the New Republic, since we kind of talked about Mon Mothma, of course, she's now in the historical timeline, she is now has passed away. And at this time, there's still battle going on, like what is left of the battle on Coruscant, and the taking over of the Coruscant by the Yuuzhan Vong. And there's a last push to try to save Coruscant. And that even includes Jaina in a coral skipper or something like that. One of the ships she's flying, in the enemy's vessel, the coral skipper or whatever. I don't think a coral skipper because that's a smaller vehicle. So sorry if I got that wrong. And so she's using that. She's piloting with the help of her comrades in there, like even with in there, and they're above Coruscant, trying to get away, trying to break free, and all of that. Let's see here. Yeah. And sorry, I was just looking at my notes because I do have notes. And And Han is over there because it's at Coruscant now, and she has a ship with her. And Han sees the ship, but he notices that the ship is being flown in a very familiar pattern, and he recognizes it's his daughter. And Leia herself says, "Yep, that's her," because she can sense her in the Force. So the state of the New Republic, they have faltered. They have fallen. All the senators that fled are now going to their own systems. And we'll get more into the fall of Coruscant as we get further into the story. And then where they land the new capital at, and what it's reborn as later. So we'll get into all those dynamics coming up here soon. And so they have that last bit of fights, and Coruscant is taken, and Jaina flees in the ship. And we know the ships are living vessels, and they can only sustain themselves for so long without having adequate fueling, I guess you can say, and stuff like that. And so the ship starts messing up on them and stuff like that. So they seek refuge at Hapes. And they go to Hapes too. Everybody, I wouldn't say they go to Hapes for support, but in a way for support, because that's where Anakin's body's taken, right? We talked about that. And it's so hard to talk about when it comes to Anakin Solo. I still get freaking choked up about it, you guys. I still get choked up. I do. And the focus in this timeline is not necessarily the New Republic's fall, of course, but it is about where they can have support, where they can be refugees. This whole storyline, this whole new Jedi Order thing also is about the refugees, saving people, the loss of planets and species, saving people, how the New Republic then decided not to save the refugees. So you have this push and pull with how the New Republic treated the refugees. In the end, they were sacrificed in a way. And but to try to save Coruscant for the greater people of Coruscant, which is a huge population. So again, this push and pull of which direction they should go. This is what happens when you are in a state of fear, a state of uncertainty, all of that, right? All of that. And we had Failure. Again, I'm just recapping. We had Failure go down like a badass. We had people abandoning him for their own machinations, I guess you could say. And the total chaos of happening. Hey, it's United Spacers Alliance. How are you doing? It's ladies' night and I feel all right. Yeah. How are you doing? All right. So let's see here. Wow. My picture's really up there big. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So Jaina, she's fleeing with her comrades in the Yuuzhan Vong vessel, and they make their way, and they have Anakin's body, and they make their way to the Hapes consortium. And she then gets a proposal of marrying our soldier, which goes back to to what do you call it? Courtship of Princess Leia. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. And I think that because this little bit of event is not much to report on other than New Republic is scattered. It's fallen. It's non-existence now. It puts the whole galaxy in dire. But because this novel is a standalone novel for Jaina Solo in the series and stuff, it gets more of her journey. And we are going to get into also her dark side journey here and talking more about Kip Duran and how he's the one that helped her from not going dark, or basically, in a way, in a sense, redeems her because he had that experience. He has that experience of falling to the dark side. What it entails, how I guess you could say feels or reactions, all of that. And we'll get more into that because I think that's a major event that needs to be talked about as well. That needs to be talked about. Yeah. And then another one that I want to get into is Peace Brigade, because they are still a prominent part of what's going on, what's happening in the galaxy. So Bane says, totally disagree with the Dennyverse nonsense. To me, it's people with their headcanon crying about post New Jedi Order not playing out the way they wanted it to. Yes, I agree. All right. So with that being said, let's get into a little bit of recap on, the state of the New Republic, what's going on. We'll get into the Hapes. We'll get into the Yuuzhan Vong and Hapes next Thursday. I don't know why I said Tuesday. Thursday, and get more into that storyline, that events and stuff. You never go full Jake Skywalker. Right. And I always point out, especially when you guys mention it, even when you don't, the New Republic fell, right? The Yuuzhan Vong, basically. And I wanted to share that image, and I should have just pulled it up on the browser. But I wanted to share that image of the claw, like basically closing on the core that you see inside the books, closing on the core. And you could see a couple of the claw reaching for core, like the fingertips or the whatever, reaching towards Coruscant. However, my point here is Luke never ran away. Even when he was at his worst of questioning where his Jedi should be, worrying about and doubting about his Jedi and the possibilities of going dark and the Order turning into nothing but a lot of Darth Vaders in a sense, he never ran. He never went into exile. And when we get more past Dark Journey, we'll get into his resistance stance with Wedge. And this also goes into the state of the New Republic. What's going on with them? Because I think during that time, they still haven't fully formed yet into what is the Galactic Alliance. So he never falters. None of that. He no matter what, in fear, doubt, or I wouldn't say, but doubt more. Well, you could say there's a little fear behind that, but having his doubts and stuff like that, he never falters. These people are essentially claiming Denning had total control over collaborations with other writers, and that the publishing arm of Lucasfilm all of a sudden were beholden to the writer instead of the other way around. Correct. I know, and that's the mental gymnastics behind that. They think that, Denning just wrote all the synopsis for each book, and the writers had to write according to what he says, and that's not the case. They, just like in true fashion from the New Jedi Order, going forward, the writing team that was brought together for like Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi all came together to expand on these stories, all had a plan to expand on the stories. It wasn't just one person given directives. And if there's any directives giving, then it would be from Lucas Licensing, the publishing, Lucas Books, because I think there's still Lucas Books still a thing. Yeah, so it'd be Lucas Books that are giving the directive on the directive and the directions on the story. Let's see here. All right. So, how many of you guys know about KOTOR Remake? It's been something that's been talked about for a while now, for like what, 4 years now? It seems like, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's been something that has been addressed for quite some time with it back and forth. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen. Now, in the beginning of the stream, excuse me. Wow. The beginning of the stream, I kind of talked about, about remake versus remaster. So remake versus remaster, what does that mean to you? Well, remake means that they are remaking something, adding to it, or changing it. They're remaking, right? Remaster just means that they're cleaning up, like visuals, game, and all of that, like gameplay, all of that. So with this introduction that they did a long time ago, a few years ago, with KOTOR on Remake, I was like very cautious. I was like, oh, they're remaking. That means they're going to change the story up some way, somehow. And I've been in back and forth arguments, debates, whatever you want to call them, about that with other people. Oh, no. They're not remaking it. They're just correcting it. They're just, blah, blah, blah. So, people try to spin their heads around that, but it's the wording, remake versus remaster. Yep. Remake means they change the story. Remaster is better sound and graphics, right? They're clean. Remasters, they're cleaning it up. They're updating sound, graphics, all that for modern technology. The advances of modern technology. They're going to add the Disney crap to the story. They will change the story, so I hope they don't do it. Correct. So with that being said, now this right here, I'm going to bring it up. And it's nothing too big, but I just wanted to share with you guys anyways. Now, this is not cringe factor. We're so used to having these guys as cringe factor. But I wanted to share nonetheless. So, surprise new KOTOR remake concept art appears online. So I didn't have a chance to look at more images. I got distracted. I'm sorry. So here's one image. KOTOR remake concept art features update Kashyyyk. So here is Kashyyyk right here. It's kind of dark. Can you guys see that? Might be just my screen. Let me check the brightness here. There we go. So here is what they are. And mind you, I'm not too privy with all the scenes throughout KOTOR because I have never played the game yet. And so I'm not sure how they visualized Kashyyyk in the gameplay before, if they have. So those who have, let me know. They're going to massacre my boy Revan. Let me see here. Hanhar's village, nice place, minus the slavers. Yeah. So that's one thing that is being shown. And I want to know, KOTOR live stream. I do have the game. I have to get into it. I've been talking to my son because, he's a continued avid gamer, as of today still. And so he's going to help me set up the type of controls and stuff I need for my computer. I don't want to use keyboard. I want to have the right controls and stuff like that. So with that being said, this is Kashyyyk right here. I don't know if there's any differences on how it should look first, or anything like that. We're going back in time. So this is like back 3,000 years ago or so. So that is something that I was curious about. Disney, female Revan is now the canonical version of KOTOR remake. Yeah. I don't know why my internet decides to want to do this. So if you're getting glitches, it's my internet is deciding to act up. They already have mods that clean up the environment, character graphics, etc. No need for remake or remaster. Yeah. All right, so Kashyyyk right here. Like I said, I don't know any differences. And then there's this right here. KOTOR remake has seen many delays. News from Star Wars remake isn't looking good. So I'm glad. I don't want to see a remake. So I'm guessing this is a shadow version of Revan, maybe? And it kind of begs to question, like, what are they going to do with him exactly? And I've seen your guys' concerns here and in the past about this. And I do have concerns too, especially when you get into the Shillverse. Yes, I'm going to call it the Shillverse. When we get into the Shillverse talking about Revan. And, oh, well, the canon is Revan's a woman instead of a man. No, it's not. So I've been in many debates with them on this, and they are so adamant on Revan being a female. I'm like, okay, so in the story, he has a relationship. He has a wife, basically, and they have a kid. So how can that be? And there's many, many people that see their gameplay version as the actual canon, their actual head canon, and then they get up, you know, what happened in the book. Because this allows you to have how you play is not exactly the version of the canon, really. And that includes Revan's gender. So, you know, I've been in the debates here. There's many people that rather like the game more than the book more than the game, or some people in the middle, like, you know, I understand the game and the book. And there's some, you know, writing in books, even the best book, there are still spots where you're like, what was the author thinking here? You know? And so you're still going to have a little bit of that. There's still going to be a push and pull, even in the best book, of what the author's doing with the characters and stuff. And you're like, wait, what? You know, so there's going to be those moments. You know, there's no perfect writer. And there's really no perfect story, in a sense. But how the story is depicted and how they carry through, even through that little slow area that you're like, what? Will determine its quality. There's quality, but not perfection, I guess you could say. If that makes sense. If that makes sense. Let's see here. Look at the Revan book cover. They make Revan look feminine, so I wouldn't doubt they'll make him a chick. Let's see here. A remake who's more like a remaster and Crash Insane trilogy maybe could be great. I mean, essentially remaster would just improve the graphics, but they're gonna change stuff. Hope not much, but you can't really rely on the state of Star Wars today to even put and trust what they're gonna do with the game. I was that way, OG. I thought the game version was the official story, but then I read the book and grew a brain. Wow. You mean you matured? You realize, wow, okay. You know, and the thing is, then they get all pissed off at Drew about the novel, right? They get pissed off about Drew with the novel, but not realizing that he's responsible for the game story too. It's kind of weird. It's very, very weird. Honestly, it is. Now, I'm coming on to the approach of knowing about the game, but not playing the game, but knowing the story through the novel. Now, of course, we all have our weaknesses in any franchise we love. My weakness is in gameplay. I really don't have the time to do that right now. But once I do, I can't wait to give my review. Game versus novel. That's going to be epic, you guys. I guarantee it's going to be epic. It's just going to take time. And they keep saying, oh, well, maybe this fall or maybe this spring or when things slow down, I'll start playing. It just hasn't slowed down for me. And I know it's about making time, but there's a lot of crap going on in my life. And crap, I'm not trying to say that in a negative connotation, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Let's see here. If he stays male, he's be humbled by a strong girl boss. God, I hope not. Female Raven became canon, Satil Sean. I don't feel so good. It's like I'm getting erased from the existence. Oh, yeah. These commies will change major story beats and plot points. It's Disney. Let's see here. I hate when that happens. I will talk to Drew about the exile part of the story. I would talk to Drew. Yeah. And there's, like I said, there's hiccups. There's always going to be hiccups with writers and stuff. No writer is perfect, and stuff. It's just how it's like, okay, the difference is, did you write yourself into a corner or not? How did you expand on that little bit of a hiccup? Right? That's just how it goes. Here we go. So male protagonist equals he'll be a minor background character in his own story. That's what they do. It's usually the Mitra Cyric simps. They don't like her demise. KOTOR 2 was written by Chris Avallone, yes, but ironically it is usually the Carpathian fans that complain. Cough, cough, fractured filter. Fractured filter got called out right there. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, let's see here. I think that's all, but I just wanted to point this out because they're still trying to hype this and still trying to make this a thing. And I think it needs to be, I just think it needs to vanish. I just think it needs to go away. And the story, this needs to be left alone. I think it is where it needs to be at. And if anything, remastering when needed, when technology gets updated and stuff like that, it's all that is needed. All that is needed, right? Let's see here. And ironically, the Carpathian fans also complain is what I meant. Yeah. I got it. I got what you're saying. Hey, I like Mitra Cyric. I just wish her story was a little better. Yeah. And I think that's the complaint that I see a lot in game versus book. And like I said, I don't have that experience yet, but I am listening. That it felt short. It felt her storyline fell short a little. Like there could have been more. And I get it. I think like Darth Zana for the Bane trilogy could have been a little bit more. And then so like with the rumors and stuff about her having her own solo book or trilogy or whatever before the buyout would have lent more to her story and the Rule of Two and its continuation up until, during that time frame. That would have been great. That would have been great. So, we don't have this possibilities of the expansion anymore of these individual stories with these individual characters. And I wouldn't want it now with the state of Star Wars and who owns them. No way. No how. I'm in a way now content with everything we've gotten and where it's at now, because I'd rather it still be how it is without any further damage to it or any damage to it by Disney by expanding on some of the stories and still having it under the timeline of quote unquote legends. So I'm at the state of content. Yeah, I went through a mournful, I guess you could say, period of like, we're not going to get any more stories. And, the Sword of the Jedi, that was something that I was looking forward to coming and reading and, expanding on Jaina's story and what happens with her and Jagged and like the impossibility of their family and stuff like that. I had to go through that. I had to go through that, like mourning of these stories that weren't going to continue, that were even in process that weren't going to be continued. It's like they picked and choose which books were going to be continued and not being continued. And I wish they would have just allowed the books that are in process to still be published, finished and published. You know, so I had to go through that, and I did. And that's one of the things that kept this channel alive, is just talking about and keeping the stories in front of you all. George Lucas era of Star Wars. Beautiful thing. Now, is George Lucas era Star Wars dead? No. But is Disney? Yes. All right, let's see what you're saying. All right, imagine Zana versus Cognis battle and how it would or could happen. We know Cognis won because she said it to continue on. Yeah. Hey, I like Mitra. Yeah, I read that. Yeah. So we can all now just imagine, and yeah, there's still that little longing, I guess you could say, but do I want it under Disney? Continuation under Disney? Hell to the fuck. No. All right. 60 beautiful souls here. Thank you for watching, supporting. And if you want to come here, if you're listening on Twitter and you want to come here and participate in the chat, feel free to jump on over here and hang out with us. Love to have you here on the side, on the YouTube side. All right. So with that being said, we are going to get into cringe factor and start winding down. All right. So Lucas Gerson says, Star Wars games are really good. I'm sure that all of you who aren't that familiarized with the video games much would enjoy them. Dark Forces, Jedi Knight, Force Unleashed, KOTORs, etc. All amazing. I agree. I will not buy a continuation from a company who sends gift bags to Brutus. Correct. There you go. Boom. There you go. Right? And that right there, too. The support of these type of people. Yep. Bruce, what? Oh, they don't. Some of you guys don't know the lore. Let's see here. Just want to see OG. Just want to see OG rage out on Super Star Wars. Y'all remember that series? Oh, I remember that series too. If I ever decide, well, when I decide, not if, to start playing, I think I'm going to start playing Dark Forces first. But when I do, I might stream it. We'll see. We'll see. I might have to have someone on here to, not mod, but basically be a second host to read comments and stuff too. Watch Melvin's video. Yeah, Diddly Squat. It's Melvin's video. If any of you mods want to grab it and put the link in here so that can be taken, that could be watched later on, that would be greatly appreciated. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot going on with that one. So I recommend checking it out later on. And then also his current one. All right. Darth Bane says, yeah, so they got progressive. Yeah. Let's see here. And thank you so much, sir. All right. And I beat those without Game Genie after screaming at for months. Laugh out loud. I grew up as a gamer. Like I was sharing my age. I was little when the first Nintendo first came out. I was gifted to it like shortly after it came out, and started collecting the games for it and stuff. So I understand like how that all goes down. Playing the game, having those bit of rages or whatever as you're playing through and you're dying or whatever circumstances going on, until when you finally beat it, when you finally got the strategy, got all the secret stuff, all of that. I'm just speaking in general. and you finally beat it. Oh my God. So much fun. So much fun. I got so much vids on my list. The joys of being a Star Wars fan. Yes. Let's see here. Yeah, not quite as difficult as Battletoads, Melissa. Battletoads is on another level. Yes. Yes. All right. And let's see here. There you go. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get into our cringe factor here. Let me go ahead and stop screen share and get the other one ready to go. So with that cringe factor, what do I want to play? Let's do this.
And I've always leaned towards if we're going to create something, we should check and see if it existed already to the fans, because it has way more value if we bring that in. And It's like, why would I just replace it with something new? So if we're going to do an admiral, if we're going to do a big military leader, yeah, I could create a new guy, sure. But what about Thrawn? Thrawn is great. Thrawn is a character we all know. Thrawn has a lot of credibility. So then you ask yourself, is it right to use him? And can we use him in a way that's similar to the books? Or are we using him and it's going to go completely into left field? And there have been times when we wanted to use things from the EU, and I was like, yeah, but we can't use it that way, so why? I don't want to use it and change it. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to use it and make it something completely different. That's rude.
That's rude. All right.
So uncivilized.
Sometimes these clips, clicking on them, and you think you got them ready to go, and yeah, but here we go. Cringe factor. Did it show up? There we go. All right. Why does everything have to seem like it's going slow right now? There we go. All right. Yes. Smash the like button. So this right here, I always say I need to get ad blockers and I never do it. Talk about it, but never do it. So Star Wars just set up. So this is talking about Disney Star Wars, mind you. Disney Star Wars just set up its new Luke Skywalker replacement. Are you guys freaking surprised about this? We knew with Kennedy's announcement that they were going to step away from the Skywalkers, and that includes Luke. So is this not surprising to you? Or is it? Let me know in the chat. How rude. Yes. How rude. Let's see here. Rey, yeah, we know what they already did on the sequels. Yeah. So I wish I would have brought up that statement of Kennedy's about, stepping away from the Skywalker saga, basically the Skywalkers and stuff. So again, this is not a big surprise, but I thought I'd bring this up as cringe factor. Anyways, for some of you guys may not know, maybe this is a big surprise. So, but of course, this is Screen Rant, so you know how reliable they are on things and how much bullshitters they are. That's why they always contribute to cringe factor. So this is by Al Kapur. So, and this was published about 4 days ago. Again, I've been so busy, haven't been paying attention to a lot of things lately. I wouldn't say not paying attention, but they're not particularly on my radar. And I feel like I'm catching up with pop culture life right now and everything around it and even outside of it. So here we are. So Star Wars, Disney Star Wars Starfighter just set up the franchise's new Luke Skywalker replacement. What? Decades after the character was first introduced, well, in their Disney lore, Luke is dead. Luke is dead. So why, this doesn't make sense in a way, or wholeheartedly, it doesn't make sense, because how would they bring back Luke anyways when he's dead in their lore? If we're talking about George Lucas era Star Wars in the same time frame, if you're gonna, go with the galactic standard time and stuff, and they're dating and stuff, Luke is still alive, right? So, so decades after the character was first introduced in the original Star Wars movie, they're talking about Luke. Sean Levy's Disney Star Wars Starfighter is set up to arrive in theaters on May 28th to 2027. Almost exactly 50 years after George Lucas' first Star Wars movie, later retitled A New Hope. At least they paid homage to that. I'll give you credit for that. Premiered in cinemas and changed Hollywood forever. So when you look at Star Wars in general, not only did the story concept, everything that George created for the story, Luke Skywalker's journey and all this other stuff, changed Hollywood, it's also how he created the story, the technology he used, all the ideas that came from him and the company changed Hollywood forever. But guess what? He stepped away from Hollywood. He stepped away from Hollywood. He became an independent filmmaker because he didn't want Hollywood figures, Hollywood studios to tell him what he could and could not do. Let's see here. Of course, it's no surprise that Disney Lucasfilm would choose to debut a new movie in such a pivotal year for the franchise. But it seems Disney Star Wars Starfighter will celebrate Star Wars origin in more than one way. How is it going to celebrate Star Wars origin when they're talking about, quote unquote, replacing Luke Skywalker? How is that going to celebrate the origin? And in fact, how's it going to even celebrate the origin when one of their main characters is dead? The one that brought Star Wars front and center, Luke Skywalker, dead. Luke Skywalker? New Luke Skywalker, more like Jake Skywalker 2.0. Luke's not dead. He's dad now. On New Jedi Order. Yes, yeah, I know. He's a dad now. Yeah, we're talking about Disney Star Wars. We're going through the cringe factor through this. All right. I'm going to close this window so I don't actually click on it. There we go. All right. Of course, it's no surprise that Lucasfilm would choose to debut the new movie such pivotal year, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so Flynn Gray's new character is Skywalker coded. Oh, what? What? Skywalker coded. We have this BS going on here. Skywalker coded. Coded. What the hell? Coded. All right. Let's get into this, Mr. Gal Cooper, or whatever your name is. Starring Ryan Gosling, young Irish actor Flynn Gray, and several big name stars like Amy Adams, Mia Goth, Matt Smith, and Aaron Pierre. Starfighter is set to take place 5 years after Disney Star Wars The Rise of Palpatine, and will present a wholly original standalone story. Wholly original. Holy. Oh, what is original with Star Wars anymore? It's a continual historical timeline. Yeah, you could say New Jedi Order brought in some original concepts like the Yuuzhan Vong Galaxy Invaders. But it's not, like, the story in a sense is not original to me. A story totally original doesn't apply to the historical timeline. Even when we just got done talking about KOTOR. Was that original? Well, yeah, in a sense. But it was a historical event happening like 3,000 plus years ago. So original. What are they talking about original? Standalone story. And we just talked about what standalone stories are, because Dark Journey is Jaina Solo standalone story, but it's still a part of the greater timeline of New Jedi Order. All right. So, playing with words here. Do they really need to redirect their storytelling and everything because of all the failures? And I'm even going to throw Andor into that failure. Because even if it's quote unquote being the best Disney has ever brought through Star Wars, still is not an accomplishment in a damaged franchise, in a damaged storyline. Yeah, I went there. I'm probably going to hear it. I don't give a shit. So, with the inconsistencies, the direction they decided to take the franchise, the story, do they have to wholly make, excuse me, wholly make an original? Is this an attempt to try to save grace, correct their mistakes? Or how many times have you heard a brand new story or a different direction or this or that? And yet the story still did a lot of damage and still was bad. So play on words. Play on words. Where did it go? Play on words to give people peace of mind and comfort. That's all I see this as. All I see this as. And that's it. All right. According to a previous report by the Hollywood Reporter, Gosling will be portraying a character forced to protect a young Charge from evil pursuers. Okay, so that's not original. You know, because we could think about one person, at least one person in the Star Wars universe that did that. And that would be Obi-Wan for Luke, right? But with that being said, Starfighters gives you an indication that the Resistance, I guess you can say, or whatever they call themselves in this Disney Star Wars lore, in the First Order and all this, like, there was no defeat of the First Order. Why would you have Starfighters? Like, this is a story. Like, Starfighters would be something that I would think of, and I'm not trying to compare it to X-Wings, but, you know, X-Wings was a series that happened, you know, after, you know, Return of the Jedi. And it was about basically, you know, liberating Coruscant, regaining the capital. So when you have a Starfighter type story, but then again, it's years after the events of the Rise of Palpatine, then what comes to mind is that nothing was settled. They didn't win, or they're still fighting. Because, you know, X-Wings was a time where, you know, they relatively defeated the Empire, but there's a lot of still things that needed to be done. The cleanup of the war, basically, and the various remnant warlords that were still in hiding. And we learned too when the Truce of Bakura that some places in the galaxy didn't even know the Empire fell yet. So here we go. But that's just me analyzing this bullshit. Okay, so let's go on. While the Starfighter title currently implies that Gosling will be a pilot of some kind, perhaps even a Force-sensitive one. Okay, so how does Starfighter make you think of someone being Force-sensitive? There's a lot of people who are Starfighters, like X-Wing pilots and stuff like that in original lore that are not Force-sensitive. Some of them are the best pilots, and one that I'm going to say that can fly with the best or even with Force users, Widge Antilles. Phenomenal pilot, phenomenal tactic being. So when I see someone saying, oh, Starfighter, you know, like a Starfighter pilot, that I don't automatically think of Force sensitive. Star Wars, Disney Star Wars Starfighter was an early 2000s video game in which game played a Starfighter pilot during Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace's invasion of Naboo. Gray's role is even more interesting. Also, they're trying to say that his role is going to be more interesting than the original Starfighter game. All right. So here's the video. I don't want to play it. A youngster being hunted by villains would imply there's more to him than meets the eye. Perhaps he's a new kind of chosen one. Oh, fuck. Here we go. So not only is this author saying and implying that, that this is going to replace Luke Skywalker, but also the chosen one. We know Luke is not the chosen one. A Masonic figure of some sort, just like Luke Skywalker turned out to be. Luke Skywalker was not the chosen one. Dude, go back and watch the movies. When we first met Luke on Tatooine in A New Hope, he wasn't being hunted per se, but knowledge of his existence was dangerous. He was destined to become the hope of the Jedi. So they're trying to say, okay, so this new character is going to be this chosen one, the hope of the Jedi. Okay, so then are you trying to imply that Rey's Jedi Order never fruitioned? What's going on here? What? Or is she going to be the person watching out for this person? I don't know. This is fucking crazy. It's like they don't know the direction they want to go with their stories. And so they're clinging on to aspects of the past of what George did to try to make something their own. Fine, sure, whatever. But to copy stories instead of coming up with original plan? That's not to say that Gray's character will end up being a Jedi, though, in this brand new era of Star Wars storytelling. So this is Disney Star Wars storytelling. Anything is possible. You're just remaking everything. That's all. We're going back to remaking, right? We're remaking everything. Whoever Matt Smith and Mia Goth's villains end up being, they're knowing, or at least believing, that Gray's character is force sensitive, much like Luke, would surely be a legitimate reason for them to come after him. Why? All right. So to celebrate the start of Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars Starfighter's production at the end of August, Lucasfilm released the images see above of Gosling and Grace sitting on a land speeder, blah, 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 blah. All right. So we're going to end here. We're going to end at this. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Choose many equal lesbian witches second coming. Who knows? Let me see. It jumped on me. All right. You're the chosen one. You're the chosen one. You're the chosen one. You're the chosen one. Yeah, everyone is the chosen one. Yep, that's how it's going. Let me see here. I'm scrolling all the way up here to where I thought I left off at. The dialogue makes no sense. Ray Gosling? Let's see here. If I skip over some comments, I'm sorry. Disney Star Wars feels like a cover band playing George Lucas's greatest hits. It's familiar, but it's not the real thing. There you go. Maybe Elephant Guy from Skeleton Crew is a Jedi Knight. Let's see. And not that familiar even, to be honest. Another Skeleton Crew? Ray Gosling? Or Ryan? I say Ray. I don't know why I was calling him Ray. Ryan Gosling. Let's see here. And the Shills will fanboy over Elephant Boy. Let's see. Michael A. Stapple. Oh, fuck. They're going to bastardize my books too now. Let's see here. It's after Rise of Palpatine. Yes. I think they said something about 5 years after. I thought they wouldn't explore this period till Rey movie. Who knows what they're going to do. They said that this is in production, but who knows? The dialogue makes no sense. Ahsoka will be in the movie. Okay, so like everything froze on me. Hello, I hope you guys can hear me. All right, Ahsoka will be in the movie. USA. Yeah. Let's see here. Wasn't it hard to get into Rogue Squadron? Had to be voted in. It's not voting in. You had to be tested. You had to be tested, your skills, all of that. And then even when you still had to qualify through your training as well. So it was very hard to get in because it was nothing but the best of the best. Yeah, Matt Smith and Ryan Gosling can't save the movie. Yeah. New chosen one. I get it. Yep, I get it. All right, you guys. Oh, I know. This is like totally cringe. It's like, we don't need a new chosen one type story. That was said and done. Leave it with Anakin and leave it with the Luke being the Redeemer and sharing that the Jedi people who chose that path can possibly be redeemed. We know that all of them can't. You know, Jason Solo wasn't redeemed. He didn't want to be redeemed, nothing like that. But the chosen one, no more. Let it be originally for Anakin Skywalker as intended by the creator, right? We were talking about this earlier when I shared that. Let me take this off. Let me put this up here. When we were talking about the creation versus evolution and how George had his hand in every aspect of the creation of the galaxy for 17 plus years. And how he, like, even when when Anakin Solo came into the picture, he's like, I didn't want two Anakins, being played out at the same time. Why should we, I wouldn't say taint, or maybe that's the right word. I don't know. Why can't it just be him, Anakin, by himself as the chosen one, right? So let's see here. I mean, the reason why the chosen one is called the chosen one is because only one is chosen, correct? And then I think this is rebounding to Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron. You know what? Now to come to think about it, you have hints of that. I can see that. I could see that. And I have 66 people watching. Thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in. Smash the like button. Become a channel member. All right. OG said taint. Taint. Yes, I said taint. But anyways, yeah, a rebranding and pushing it further past like 5 years or a few years after the rise of Palpatine. I wonder if like whatever she contributed with ideas and concepts for the Rogue Squadron was then going to be shared for that. And they took ideas from that. We will never know. However, the chosen one, there only could be one chosen one in the storyline, right? And replacing Luke Skywalker, well, this is Disney Star Wars. They killed off Luke Skywalker. So how are they going to replace him? And I think they ripped themselves into a corner by killing him off. When we have, like I said, we have Luke Skywalker alive in the original lore in that timeline. And it is beautiful. So instead of like wondering who is going to replace Luke Skywalker in Disney Star Wars in this timeline, why don't you just go back to the original true Star Wars and see what's going on with Luke Skywalker during Legacy era? Interesting concept, right? What's going on? And I bet you 100 times, 1,000 times more, the story is a lot better. A lot better. Hey, grumpy old ninja, how are you doing? I see you. A lot better. So instead of like seeing more story being wasted, being ruined, and maybe this will just totally be their own lore, like coming off of Rise of Palpatine, right? Sure, more power to them. That's cool. But there will never be another Luke Skywalker. There will never be another Anakin Skywalker as the chosen one. So don't settle for cheap imitations. Come to the George Lucas era of Star Wars, to the legacy timeline, and see what's going on with Luke during that timeline. He's alive. And that's the authentic Luke, not no cheap ripoff that they're trying to make. And not no cheap ripoff of Anakin or the Skywalkers in general. Skywalkers in general. Come to the true authentic side of Star Wars if you haven't already. And I'm probably preaching to the choir here, more than likely. But those who are listening that, you know, are fence riders or shills or whatever, why do you want cheap imitations of? Why do you want to support cheap imitations of? When you can get the true authentic stuff, the true authentic story, the true authentic characters under George Lucas era of Star Wars. Why settle for cheap imitation of story? Why settle for cheap imitation of Mandalorians? Why settle for a cheap imitation of Thrawn? And the Night Sisters? Or even the Star Wars Galaxy story in general. Why settle for the cheap imitation of Darth Vader when you have the true authentic versions under George Lucas era of Star Wars? Go where quality is. Don't be stuck in that mud, that guck of cheap imitation. Sometimes you have to, quote unquote, pay for quality. And so this is where it's at. George Lucas era Star Wars. So with that being said, we're going to start closing out. But this is to all the shills that are listening and watching and supporting this channel. Thank you so much. And even the fence riders, thank you so much. And as we close out here, I highly recommend, if you haven't had a chance to do it, go over to Knights of Melvin's channel and watch his latest video. Now, I may not have been the main target of this takedown, but I'm still part of the Gatekeepers Alliance. And of course, I'm guilty by association. And, you know, there's like brief mentions of me and Grizz, but this takedown was pathetic. And the shortest takedown ever that was attempted. And with a lot of false accusations and falsified of a server, all of that. And what's funny is that people believe this shit. People don't have discernment anymore. They don't know how to do the research, and they automatically believe something that someone posts. This is the state of the world we're in today. People being manipulated by social media and not questioning everything they see in front of them. And I said this earlier in the beginning of the stream, question everything, right? Do your research, question everything, follow what's going on, and finding out if it's the truth or not. You'll be amazed by what you find. And more than likely, if it's created in bad intentions, that's exactly what it is. Bad intentions. But with that being said, let's go ahead and play this for the shills and the fence riders and anti-EU people that are supporting the channel. You guys are loved too.
Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Bitch, sit down.
All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for our lore talk. We'll get more extensive into the Yuuzhan Vong, Darien Dark Journey, and the events of Hapes. We'll get into that next week. And of course, Book of the Week, Lucas Facts, always a consistent part of the program, the show here. And we'll get into Star Wars news, what's going on with the latest BS within Disney Star Wars, with Cringe Factor, all of that, and whatever else that we feel like chatting about here. As always, you know, I have my little rants and I have my little discussions, and it's always great to be here with you guys. Thank you guys so much for continuing supporting of the channel. And if you haven't become a channel member yet, please do so this Sunday at 6 p.m. Going back to Young Jedi Knights Listen Party, basically, the book club. So my mods are always invited to that for taking time out to come in and mod whenever I have a live stream. And of course, channel members. And so don't miss out on that. It's a great way to talk in community and listen to what we love, you know, pre-Disney Star Wars, and celebrate that and have a good time just hanging out with each other just in general. So thank you guys again. As always, you guys are friggin' amazing. And I shall talk to you guys later. Have a good day and see you guys next Thursday, or even on an uploaded video. I'm sharing content here as well. So you guys have a good one.
I'm telling you, this finale, it's unbelievable how tepid contemporary art seems compared to the passionate quality of this finale. So you have this like huge, it's like romantic nature painting, apocalyptic landscape of the lava. Lucas cross-cuts the destruction of the Senate chamber, and you have the destruction of industry going on. And then, after all these horrors, it is so beautiful. I'm saying, my God, nothing in the last 30 years in any of the arts has been produced as emotionally compelling and significant as the finale of Revenge of the Sith.
And before I close here, tonight on United Spacer Alliance, stay tuned for the next episode of the Spacers. I believe I don't have the information in front of me, but my time, I think it starts at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. I could be wrong. So stay tuned for the link, and then set your reminder. So tonight, the spacing, be there.
Another happy landing.